Let's study the last lesson from class 12. This is not the last lesson, in fact this is the first chapter from class 12. The chapter name is the last lesson, and thus the story is set in the days of Franco-Prussian War, when Prussian had defeated France and occupied two districts of France, that is Alsace and Lorraine. Yes, nowadays Prussian is known as Germany. Yes. Okay, so the setting you understood, and according to this the order has been given that now French will not be taught in Alsace and Lorraine, rather German will be taught in all the schools, and there are basically two main characters like French and M. Hamel. French is a student and M. Hamel is a teacher who has been teaching French for 40 years, so he becomes very upset. And it also shows that he is a patriot, he is very loyal to the nation, and now he tries to encourage, he tries to make people realize the importance of a language. Let's begin. In the beginning of the story we find like French is reluctant to go to school. Usually students are reluctant to go to school when do not complete the homework. That very day M. Hamel was supposed to ask the lesson on particles, and he didn't know anything about participles. That's why he was just scared of being scolded, so he did not want to go to school. And apart from that, the environment was very bright, the environment was very good. You know well that in France there is very cold, and whenever there is sunny day, it's a pleasant weather for all of them. So bright sunny day, it was a bright sunny day that day, and chirping of birds and marching of the Prussian soldiers tempted him to get away or stay away from the schools. He just wanted to enjoy the environment, enjoy that scenery outside, and he did not want to go to school. But when he passed the town hall, he saw there was a huge crowd at the bulletin board. It was the same board which had brought all sad news. People had received all the sad news from this bulletin board in 2 years, and today he just began to feel that, you know, what the bad news all about today. Well, so that very time the watcher, the blacksmith told him, don't be in a hurry to school, you have sufficient time. He did not understand, you know, what actually he wanted to say. He thought of not going to school in the beginning, but then he decided to go to school. He was stepping to the school with heavy heart, and that very day he had started for the school very late, and actually in fact he used to go to school late, and he used to get inside the class and unnoticed in the commotion and noise, but today there was pin drop silence. When he reached near the school, he was unable to hear the sound, the noises made by or created by the movements of the benches or the children speaking any lesson in unison. Means they used to speak the lesson together, so that way it used to make some commotion and noises, but that day it was silence. So when he reached, he had to enter the class in front of everybody. Yes, now everyone saw him entering the class, entering the room, and he felt blushed, he felt embarrassed, he felt very ashamed, and he got his seat. And when he settled, he felt the strange behavior of M. Hamel, because he was expecting that he will be rebuked, he will be scolded by M. Hamel, because he was actually a strict teacher. He was very sensitive, but M. Hamel was a strict teacher, so he was expecting that he will definitely scold him. But that day he did not scold him. Franz was not scolded, so he was surprised at his strange behavior. And when he settled down, like when we enter, you know, we do not notice, we do not see what is around, but when he was settled, gradually he began to notice. And then he noticed that M. Hamel was in his special or favorite attire, which he used to wear on some special occasion. There was some ceremony, so he thought, you know, what was the special day today, and he was unable to understand. Yes, so he found not only this, M. Hamel was in a special attire, a special dress or favorite dress. Not only this, the most unique or a strange thing that confused him, that puzzled him, that surprised him was that villagers, elder villagers were sitting at the back benches. And that really surprised him, that why people have also come to the places. He just began to notice everything because things were very different today. There was pin drop silence and all the faces looked very sad. They were wearing a long face as if what had happened. Yes, so he was just trying to connect but unable to know actually the fact. And then after M. Hamel explained, sitting in the chair, the order from the Berlin. Since Alsace and Lorraine had been occupied by Berlin, and now it was the order that French language won't be taught in any schools. Now onwards, German language will only be taught in the schools. So he said, M. Hamel said, now this is my last day in the school and I'll be teaching the last lesson. Listening this, there was pin drop silence. All became quite upset, including friends. He also began to feel that, I did not pay much attention to the study and I did not really complete the homework, and today is the last day. He began to regret. He really began to repent on his behavior. And I really made a mistake. Yes, I should have paid sufficient attention to the class and to the lessons. I should have really learned it, but I did not do that. And he was regretting. M. Hamel then began to ask everyone about the participles, and now it was the turn of Franz. He called out his name. Franz was naturally apprehensive about the same. Why? Because he didn't know anything about this. He tried to speak, but then he got puzzled, he got confused, and then he had to be quiet. He was expecting that maybe he will definitely be scolded, but M. Hamel did not scold him. Instead, he just began to say that it was not the fault of only students who did not pay attention, it was the fault of the people also. They did not try to learn this language. They did not give much attention to the language. They always felt this is our mother tongue, right? So they put off to learn this in future. Yes, and now the situation has changed. All were really regretting, and he even criticized himself also. He held responsible himself about the same, like he sent the children for watering the plants sometime, and when he himself had to go for fishing, that very time he just left the children. So this way he even himself criticized for this condition, that people were not very much interested in their own language. Now afterwards he began to tell the importance of mother tongue. He said actually mother tongue plays a very important role. And about French language, he said French language is the most clearest and logical language. It's a beautiful language. We should be connected to this. We should learn it nicely. And it is said when any country is enslaved, and if they are attached to particular language, right, there are chances to be free, because language is the key to the prison. It means with the help of language they can get the freedom, according to M. Hamel. So he said that mother language is very, very important, and we should be attached to this. He tried to make people realize the importance and relevance of the language. As today it was the last day about the same, the last lesson. Then he opened the book and he started teaching the last lesson. Now whatever he taught, all children, even Franz also understood completely, and he began to feel that today I understood each and everything. Maybe I did not pay sufficient attention when I was taught. Maybe M. Hamel also did not teach so patiently as he has taught today, and today he was able to understand everyone. Everyone became emotional. M. Hamel too became emotional, but he controlled his patience, and one by one he was asking everyone, and finally it was the lesson of history. And after history, yes, when the church clock struck 12, it was the time to leave. It was the signal, or it was the hint that the class was over. Yes, and it was the time to say goodbye. M. Hamel, who had given 40 years of his life to the school, he became very emotional. He was gazing at each and everything around him as if he wanted to imprint. He wanted to imprint all the things there in his mind. He wanted to collect the memory of the school, of ins and outs in his mind completely. Yes, but then too, he tried to control his emotion, and after that he could not speak much. His throat got choked. He could only write vive la France, means long live France, and then he indicated everyone to leave the class. This was the end of the story, and it simply says that M. Hamel was a patriot, and his unparalleled, or his deep affection to language, simply shows that he was much attached to the language, and he felt that language had great power to regain the freedom, and people should be aware about it. He tried to create this awareness among the people with the help of his lecture. This is the end of the story. I hope the story might be clear to you. Thank you.